Hey, welcome to Film versus Movie, the podcast where we debate the cinema you hate. I'm your co-host, Belton DeLaine-Facey.
And my name's Chris Shurr.
And on this podcast, we watch the films that have been slandered, desecrated, and got lost on a hike through the Amazon of public opinion. And one of us tells you why it's actually pretty good.
And the other one tells you why it's a steaming pile of shit.
And today, we have a special guest with us. He's a comedian, voice actor. You can catch him at the Edinburgh Fringe Fest next month doing his debut solo hour, Princess Syndrome. Please welcome Otter Lee.
Hey.
And Otter, would you like to tell people the movie we'll be discussing today?
Yeah, we're going to be going for Madam Web.
Yeah, yes, the Sony Spider-Verse movie that came out earlier this year. And when I say Spider-Verse, I don't mean the good animated movies. I mean Sony's attempts.
Are they attempting to connect them?
Loosely.
Very loosely.
I like.
By the frailest of threads.
What are they? Is there eventually going to be like a Morbius, Madam Web, Venom crossover film?
I think that's their ultimate plan. Like, you know how DC kept releasing movies with mid-credit scenes that never came into fruition because no one liked those movies? I think that's what's happening right now.
Was there even a mid-credit scene for Madam Web? I turned it off so quickly. We didn't even watch like 45 seconds of credits. We were like, all right, get this piece of shit off. Let's go watch fireworks.
All right. So for those who don't know, Madam Web is based off a comic book character that's very strongly associated with Spider-Man, but this is her own solo origin movie.
I like how you have to say, for those of you who don't know, you could just say for everybody, because no one knows this fucking character.
She's been both a supporting character and a mentor, and at times a confusing tertiary antagonist.
I had never heard of her. I had never heard of her once. Not even the MCU when Iron Man's like, who are we going to get? Madam Web? Like as a throwaway, listen to this no-name fucking character.
She got her own arc in the 90s Spider-Man animated series. So she's significant enough.
Okay, I'll give you that.
All right. So getting to the plot. First scene starts in 1973. A pregnant Constance Webb explores the Amazon for a spider with healing abilities. Ezekiel Sims, who she hired for security, takes the spider, kills her team, leaves her for dead, and then an indigenous tribe uses the spider to save her, but she ends up dying during childbirth. And then we cut to 2003. That child, Cassie Webb, now works as an EMT with none other than Ben Parker, Ben Parker.
Uncle Ben!
Yeah, they reference that so many times in this movie.
Are you ready to be an uncle?
I love, they were like, oh, that's going to be the draw. All the Spider-Man fans lose their shit for Uncle Ben.
It's weird because with the Venom movies, they didn't really tie him to Spider-Man at all. But with this, we're like, we gotta let the people know.
I thought he did an excellent job as Uncle Ben. He was extremely likable. I wish we had more of him.
I feel like this is the first Spider-Man movie where he's just not dead the whole time. So maybe it is nice to have an alive Uncle Ben.
I know. It's like, I remember when they announced they were rebooting Spider-Man for the MCU. I saw someone made a Ben Parker Twitter account and just replied, "How many times are you gonna fucking kill me?" All right, so she's with Ben Parker. She almost drowns on call and experiences visions she dismisses as deja vu. This is until she has a vision of her coworker's death and she fails to prevent it, and that's when she realizes she can see the future.
She didn't try very hard to prevent it.
She actually caused it because she distracted and delayed him by a couple seconds, so it caused him to rush and crash even faster.
Yeah, because if she let him go, he would have missed that truck.
Yeah.
Also, if you look at the wide shot they get, the truck was about to run off the harbor. So either way, someone was dying in that scene.
Yeah.
All right, so back to Ezekiel. He's now just rich inexplicably he has limited precognition powers and Spider-Man like abilities plus poison, and he now has this high-tech surveillance where he can watch any security camera in the city essentially. And he has this vision where these three teenage girls, Julia, Anya, and Maddie, in the future, they gain powers and kill him. So he's like, all right, I gotta kill them first so that I don't die. So at Grand Central Station, all three girls and Cassie are there, and Cassie saves them when he attacks by stealing a cab and taking them to a forest outside of New York City.
I think my favorite is the lack of urgency in her voice when she's trying to save the girls on the train. Like, it's a masterclass in acting. She's like, run away, he's going to kill you. You have to get off this train right now. Yeah, you have to get off this train.
You know, it's funny because like they established at this point in the movie well enough that Cassie just does not like children.
Yeah, and don't forget she encountered all three of them over the course of her day.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of established that she like has no excitement for anything going on in her life.
She has no friends.
Like
she has no family.
She almost kills a kid with the ambulance, and she's like, "Oh my god, rude teenagers! They just flip me off."
I love the scene when the little Asian boy hands her a drawing as thank you for saving his mom, and she just totally brushes it off, which is crazy because if she's been working as an EMT this long, someone would have given her some kind of like token of their appreciation before. So her acting like that, if the little kid is being weird, is actually way weirder than anything else.
Oh no, she is such a weirdo because remember the baby shower.
The baby shower scene is amazing.
Yeah, they
completely ruins.
Yeah, no, they have
Ben's
this
sister's baby shower.
Yeah, they have this like game where like all the guests write down a good memory they have with their mom. The mom to be draws it out of a bucket or something and guesses
she's
who wrote
like,
down.
I wrote nothing down because my mom is dead and I didn't ever get to have a relationship with her.
Which is so weird. She put a blank piece of paper in there.
In defense of the baby shower scene, it was a huge assumption on the part of the people throwing the baby shower that everybody had a relationship with their biological mother in that way.
You ever seen like the Kristen Wiig character from SNL who always ones up people?
Yeah.
Where she's like, oh my God, so actually like I have 2 Lamborghinis and I've rode them here like a skateboard. I feel like she does that, but instead of one-upping people, she just kills all the excitement in the room.
I know.
Someone will be like, man, this hot dog's good. And she's like, yeah, but did you know that hot dogs are actually made from tortured pigs?
She's like Debbie Downer, right? Rachel Dratch.
Yeah, no, it reminds me of when my freshman year of college, and I had to take a bunch of classes with pre-med kids because they're insufferable. You walk into classes like, man, I'm so tired. I only got like 5 hours of sleep last night. They'll be like, I haven't gotten 6 hours of sleep since I was born.
And I just want to add that Peter Parker's mom is played by the wonderful Emma Roberts, who is in a different genre of movie than the rest of the movie. She is acting her ass off. She is trying for an award. She thinks she is the hero of the story, and I love that.
Yeah,
she probably should have been Madam Web.
Yeah,
she's at least a good actress.
Honestly, she probably will. All right. Yeah, so Cassie takes the girls to a forest outside the she leaves them in the forest to go back to her own apartment, get her mother's notes, which contain notes on Ezekiel, and the girls, of course, walk to a nearby diner and where a man alerts authorities of their whereabouts because at this point the girls have only been missing for a couple hours, but a printed newspaper has already indicated that they are gone. Yeah, that was a weird decision to me because to me it would have made sense to just have a TV in the diner. He sees it on the news. That would have made sense, and considering it's 2003, that seems like the way you would get that information. But a printed newspaper just feels like they're trying too hard.
But then how would you have only had one person recognize them in order to do it quietly so then the villain could come in?
Also, it's so funny because like the whole reason she has to go back to her apartment in Chinatown, where I'm from, I might add, is that her apartment is too big for Chinatown. That's the first thing. Right? She's no way she's making that on an EMT salary, but also, but the crazy thing is the whole reason she has to go back is because she never read her mom's notes in depth before. So she endangers these 3 girls' lives so that she can read her mom's notes, just in the hope that she can get a little bit of a clue about what's going on.
Yeah, she really didn't care about her dead mom either.
Well, I mean, she never met her. I feel like that's kind of reasonable.
Yeah, I think she also just blamed her mom for dying, being like, "Why were you in the Amazon when you were that pregnant?"
I would blame my mom the same exact way.
I thought it was an excellent reveal. Like, she's just in the Amazon and he offers her an umbrella, and then the camera pans back and she's more pregnant than any pregnant woman you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, it's like the director never saw a pregnant woman, so she was just like, "No more. How are people supposed to know she's pregnant and not just fat?"
And then another thing I really love about the diner scene is the decision to have the teenage girls dance on a table for boys. You know, that is completely recognizable behavior that teenage girls did in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, I'm like, that might work for a bar, but no one's dancing on the table at a diner.
Yeah.
Like, not unless you have, like, I don't know, you're coming back from your state champs of like a women's hockey team or something.
Yeah, it's also weird because, like, I get they kind of wanted to have a bonding moment with the 3 girls, but, like, they could have had one without any boys involved.
Also, 2 of the girls don't want to dance on the table at all. Maddie forces them to do it, which is the best way to get teenage girls dancing on tables. Oh, also shout out to the soundtrack, right? They play Toxic, which technically was not released at that time. I think they were doing like radio previews of it, but it wasn't technically released. It would come out later. So it's already anachronistic. But in terms of the scene where they're fighting him and he's trying to poison them, Italian Chef's Kiss. That is a brilliant marriage of combat, stakes, and lyrics.
Yeah.
Soundtrack is a banger for this movie.
Toxic with the poison works well. I do feel like most of the soundtrack was a result of a Google search hit songs 2003.
That's you got to establish it. You know, they're in post 9/11 Manhattan, and soundtrack is the most tasteful way to go.
So wasn't it originally supposed to be set in the 90s?
Yes, I have more about that in the production.
Do you think they
notes.
had to like re-edit? They had to like edit in the Twin Towers.
Yeah,
and
no,
then
my
they're like,
headcanon is that it would have been too offensive to have a potential that Madame Web could have stopped 9/11. So they just. She did not prevent the 2008 housing crisis, though. That is on Madame Web's
the
hands.
end credit is just her having a vision of 9/11 and just being like, no, thank you.
All right, so back to the diner. A man alerted authorities. So after having a vision of Ezekiel killing them all, Cassie goes back to the diner while Ezekiel's in mid-attack. She just runs this cab through the diner, hits him with her car, and then they get in the car and leave. And they go to a motel. She has an astral conversation.
They never explain
with
it.
Ezekiel. Yeah,
they never explain. Is it his powers? Is it her powers?
It's just their powers combined.
She just has like a vision where she goes back to the diner for no reason, and he like.
Yeah, the web connects them all.
Yeah,
That's
is it like a chat room for spider people? Because then couldn't she have just talked to the spider people in the Amazon from her dreams?
Speaking of the spider people, we have to bring up. How did the spider people fly her back to New York City to put her into the foster care system?
Okay, yeah. There's a lot of plain stuff that doesn't make sense because going to the next plot point, Cassie goes to the Amazon, leaves the girls with Ben Parker
when she's wanted for kidnapping.
Yeah, she is a wanted criminal. This is post 9/11 New York. Like, they're still editing the Twin Towers out of movies at this point, and she gets on a plane, goes to the Amazon, not even like a tourist spot on the Amazon. She bases it off a picture of random trees her mom had.
Yeah, she has a very old map, and then she just like keeps walking around and just like holding up random Polaroid shots of nature. 2 months to get to that location. I'm just saying 2 months.
Easily, those girls should be dead.
Yeah, like they literally, and the worst part is they set a deadline. As they're leaving, Adam Scott's like, oh yeah, we're gonna have this place for a few more weeks. No one will look for us. 2 weeks is the deadline that they have to get back before because the guy's watching Adam Scott's normal apartment.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'll get into it. I'll
All
get
right.
into it.
All right. So in the Amazon, Cassie finds the tribal chief that saved her, and he sends her to like this higher plane of consciousness where she sees like all the past and future stuff. She learns her mom was searching for a spire to save Cassie from this,
myasthenia gravis.
Yeah, from this genetic disease,
which canonically Madam Web in the comics has, and they got rid of for the movie.
Yeah, and then
Does it make you blind and paralyzed?
Yes, but it's also science fact here. It's impossible to detect it in unborn children.
They're like, let's pick the one that's impossible.
Yeah.
Look, that's not the most illogical part.
Like
of this movie.
they actually took the one thing from Madam Web's backstory and her disability and took it away for her origin. You know what I mean? Because there's a version of this, right, where she's a precognitive like superhero or superpowered character, and she works for her disability. But we're like, no, we're just gonna have her be a normal woman for the first 30 years of her life.
Yeah, I'm just imagining like the way this movie's going. I imagine if they did that, her origin story would be similar to the Daredevil movie, where she just wakes up and is like, "Oh my god, that's the future." All right, but so back to New York.
No. The important turning point of the movie, right, is that she discovers that her mom wasn't trying to cure illnesses in all people. Her mom was just trying to cure her. So it's okay.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Also, did they talk about her dad?
Never.
Nope.
And they also have that amazing line earlier in the movie where she's like, "Well, Mom, I hope the spiders were worth it."
That's the exact way she said it too.
Yeah. All right. So back in New York, Ben's sister-in-law goes into labor. So they all go to the hospital. Ezekiel attacks him along the way
because he sees them through a surveillance camera.
Yeah,
up until that moment, he had no way of tracking.
Yeah, which is like at this point they've been in that house for a week. It's like, okay, you've been here a week straight, no attacks. Like, it seems like you're safe here. Why leave?
Well, and then the girls didn't need to go.
No.
They just needed to send the pregnant woman with Adam Scott and everything would have been fine.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, let's not leave these 17-year-old girls at home unsupervised.
Hey, they might have ended up on a table at diner dancing again.
And so Cassie gets back.
In record time.
In record time. She saves them by stealing an ambulance and running it through the wall of this parking garage into Ezekiel as he's attacking them. Which I have to say, the way they blocked and framed that, Ezekiel got himself hit. He literally jumped into the ambulance. If he just ducked, he'd be fine.
I think it's amazing that we have such a strong, independent female character who relies on the power of carjacking. we don't have a lot of that in popular culture.
No.
Yeah, she's just always conveniently around people who leave their keys in the car.
She like recognizes other EMTs trying to help someone else out and steals the ambulance. So what happened to the people they were trying to help?
No, because what it was, they originally called the EMT for May Parker going into labor, but they got there late.
Yeah.
All right. So in the ensuing battle, she brings the girls into a warehouse of fireworks to draw in Ezekiel.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. You mentioned that you would prefer to watch fireworks. I think the movie does an extremely responsible thing in showing everybody the dangers of fireworks.
I just love that they're setting for the finale. They're like, all right, how about a loose fireworks factory?
Yeah,
the East River.
A loose fireworks factory with a giant Pepsi sign on it. Like, this movie has a whole lot of Pepsi product placement.
I was at a 4th of July party on a roof, and people were lighting fireworks, and I was extremely worried that a loose firework was going to hit me in the eye.
Yeah. So in the ensuing battle, Cassie uses her powers to protect the girls, including like astral projection. Like, there's a moment all 3 girls are dangling off of something, and Cassie just uses...
She Naruto shadow clones herself and saves all of them.
You know, that's a better explanation than the phrase I was using. All All right, so in the ensuing battle, she defeats Ezekiel with a Pepsi sign. She's blinded and becomes paralyzed from the waist down. But in the aftermath, they all bond, and she assures the girls she'll mentor them to their full potential as they become like Spider Women in the future.
They also never gain powers.
Yeah,
by the end of the movie.
It's weird because if you watch the trailers, like it shows them in costume a lot. That's only in like flash.
The vision that she has.
She ultimately stopped like a really great Spider-Man movie. The Vision is a great Spider-Man movie.
Its effects are glorious. The actresses are playing their actual age for the most part.
Spider-Girls, pre-Peter Parker, like there's such an interesting concept in there with Madam Web guiding them, and instead we just get dumpy fucking Madam Web being like, we could have just started mom.
There. You have a good point.
Like it would have been, I think, give me a Spider-Man movie with 3 Spider-Girls, and then like Peter Parker shows up and he's like, oh, I'm not the only Spider-Man, and he kind of struggles with that. It's not great, but it's better than this piece of shit. Like there's a great story in there.
Yeah. All right. So a bit on the production history. As we already mentioned, this is based on a Spider-Man supporting character of the same name. Back in 1999, Sony bought the movie rights to Spider-Man and related characters. And part of the deal stipulated that they had to produce some sort of Spider-Man movie at least once every 5 years and 9 months.
Or they lose the IP, right?
Yeah, or they lose the rights. That's why Spider-Man's been rebooted a few times. And after they made a deal with Marvel Studios for Tom Holland's Spider-Man, the MCU, Sony wanted to like have ownership over some of their own Spider-Man movies. That's how we got the animated Spider-Verse movies, but also what they've been doing is giving solo movies to Spider-Man supporting characters and villains.
Without Spider-Man.
Yeah, without Spider-Man. That's how we got the Venom movies and, of course, Morbius in 2022. Madam Web came out in February of this year. Their next one coming up is Kraven the Hunter.
I don't know that character actually.
He's a pretty popular Spider-Man villain. So it was slated to come out in August 30th, 2024. It's now coming out in December because a Sony spokesperson essentially said, we anticipate people will see it over and over.
I actually saw Madam Web 5 times.
Is there like a tax reason to move it closer to the end of year?
The only reason is holiday season, so a lot of people have off. Because outside of that, it's because it would be because of awards contention, and I highly doubt they expect Kraven the Hunter to contend for the big awards.
Could you imagine being that optimistic? Of just being like, no, it wasn't that one or that one or that one, but this is the hit.
Yeah,
we still have the stuff, baby.
Yeah, just reading the Madam Web box office numbers and then you see the first test screening of Kraven the Hunter and be like, you know what, this one's the banger.
What is his powers?
He's really just like a super game hunter. So like he sees Spider-Man as the ultimate kill, and that's why he hunts Spider-Man.
So he's like Hagrid with superpowers.
He's like super Donald Trump Jr.
Who was it? The dentist that killed that lion?
Oh right? My god! All right. And so Sony hired the writing team of Matt Sazama and Burke Sharpless for his script. It's worth noting they previously worked with Sony on Morbius. They were hired after they worked on Morbius, but before Morbius came out. So I'm not sure how much Morbius's reception would have affected them getting this job.
Did either of you see Morbius?
No.
I haven't.
Neither have I. I kind of wish I want to know if this is better or worse than Morbius.
At least this time around, Sony was smart enough to not think a movie getting memed meant it would do better in theaters.
I had to explain that to my dad.
All right. So the film was directed by S.J. Clarkson, which makes this her feature film directorial debut. She previously directed a lot for TV.
She directed a couple episodes of Succession, I believe.
Yeah, a couple episodes of Succession. She worked in the Netflix Marvel universe, having worked on Jessica Jones and The Defenders. And now it's worth noting the script reportedly went through a lot of changes during production.
Not enough.
Yeah,
Right?
no, apparently it seems like any time a major outlet reported on what this movie was going to look like, it was slightly different. If you put it together, it sounds like a game of telephone. Like it started with it being Sony's Doctor Strange. Then it was going to be a standalone origin suspense-driven thriller. Then it was reported Clarkson was given more creative freedom, and she wanted a groundy, gritty tone like Jessica Jones.
It was so gritty.
Yeah, and Chris, as you mentioned, it was reportedly originally set in the 90s so that the Peter Parker being born in the movie could be Andrew Garfield's version of Spider-Man. And they reportedly did reshoots to say in 2003 so that Peter Parker could be Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man. So yeah,
a character who doesn't appear in the film in any meaningful way.
They didn't do a great job, like carrying. They got some 90s stuff. There's 2024 stuff all over the freaking film. They're like the security cameras. I've seen them. They're like modern applications.
Yeah, no, it's funny because like with the security features, the whole security camera thing, it's very modern, but they just explain it away because there's a line where they're like, not even the NSA has the technology, and that's it.
Remember how he gets the technology too? He sleeps with that random NSA agent lady. She's credited in the script as beautiful woman. Like they could have given her like some kind of a name or referred to her as an NSA agent, but nope, she's beautiful woman.
She is a beautiful woman.
Yeah, that sounds about right for this movie. All right, so this movie came out February 14th, 2024. It has an estimated budget of $80 million and made $100 million at the box office.
Which isn't great. Right?
Yeah, no. For reference, movies generally have to make 2.5 times this budget to be considered successful at the box office. This was very short of that. Its Rotten Tomatoes score is 11%. It has a 3.9 on IMDb. I think it's worth mentioning in interviews afterwards. In a Bustle interview, Dakota Johnson said she's not surprised it didn't do too well. She called it made by committee, implied she signed on for a different movie, and said she probably won't do another superhero movie. Which, like, that's one thing about Dakota Johnson. She does interviews like she does not need another paycheck.
It's so funny too because both Dakota Johnson and Sydney Sweeney, when they posted the news of her casting to their Instagrams, both tagged Marvel. So I don't know who failed to inform them that they were doing the Sony Spider-Verse and not a Marvel Cinematic Universe film, but they were obviously misled.
Also, like, I know it has a superhero in it, but I just feel like this isn't even a superhero movie.
Yeah, it's weird. It feels like a different take on a superhero origin story.
Like it's barely a superpower. It's more just like a suspense movie, I guess.
Yeah, it feels more supernatural than superhero.
Like if you were to call this a horror movie, I'd be like that's kind of more realistic than calling it a superhero.
I think her
movie.
driving skills are superhuman.
All right. In an interview, Sydney Sweeney seemed to just like not care. It didn't do well. She said, "I was just an actress in the film," and she did state that she did the film mainly to make the connections necessary to get Anyone But You made, which was a rom-com she starred in and produced that came out about a month before Madame Web and did much better at the box office. And then in a recent interview while promoting a different project, Emma Roberts said she's proud of the movie and blames the memes for it not doing well.
I love that. She really worked her ass off. You can tell it from her acting and her general demeanor.
You gotta love the commitment. Even when it's bad, you still honor the project.
Yeah. All right. Well, now
that's why she should have been Madame Web.
I think she would have made a good.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, I do think it would have been better if Madam Web was played by someone like her, or if they still wanted to go dry like Aubrey Plaza.
Dakota Johnson kind of comes off like her character kind of comes off like your aunt who had a childhood brain injury. She's like nice and you feel bad and you have to spend time with her. But like she can't.
No, I just love for the first half of a movie, she's just a huge asshole for no discernible reason other than her not getting to meet her mom.
She's like a nice asshole though. That's kind of the issue.
Like, it's not that she's trying to be mean. She just does not care about other people.
It's like bordering on she just doesn't understand what's going on.
Her opening line is right. Like, they're not going room temp on my watch about a person that is dying in the back of her ambulance. I thought that line delivery was excellent, truthfully.
Yeah.
Because it really set us up for that character and what she has to offer.
All right. Well, now it's time for our opening statements. I will be defending the film, and Chris will be attacking. I'll go first. Madam Web is the most misunderstood movie of the year. If this movie had a 20th of its budget, we'd understand it for what it is. A campy B movie where not everyone played along. It had all the fun and ridiculousness you'd want from a good time with a clear self-awareness to keep you drawn in. Why anyone saw this looking for a serious superhero movie is beyond me. Get a bucket of popcorn, shut up, and have some fun.
No one tells me to shut up, Belton. I'm going to have a terrible time. All right. Madam Web is another boring film centering on a Spider-Man character nobody knows, executed with the care and grace of Casey Anthony tucking her daughter into bed. Madam Web raises a question of, is anybody even trying at Sony anymore? I've never seen a film with more commitment to being bad than this one. It has bad editing, bad writing, bad directing, bad acting, and bad marketing. I'd bet all my money that even the food on set was shitty. It's bad.
All right, Otter, do you have any initial thoughts?
I want to say that I think you both brought an interesting point about how it doesn't feel like a superhero movie. And I would argue that Madam Web is an excellent movie to add to the canon of superhero films because it might be the nail in the coffin for the genre as a whole in this point in time. And I think that's excellent. I think that it's cool that we have a female superhero who isn't good at anything. I think that's relatable. I think she doesn't even have any powers that would be helpful in a general situation. It's more like a parlor trick that's taken to a whole new level. I thought it was amazing how we had 3 supporting female leads who are all extremely annoying. I love how the film went out of its way to defy expectations and then met them in really weird, boring ways. Like, for example, I love that they didn't play Sydney Sweeney's sex appeal at all. I think it's an excellent growth point for the actress as a whole. I think it's good that she's humbled. She has a ton of awards buzz and stuff, and she's doing lots of stuff. Let her be in a bad movie, right? Everybody deserves to have that experience once in their lives. And I also loved, they went out of her way to make the Latin X character, right, like super smart, but it's like, oh, her parents are still going to be deported. I think that level of unapologetic racism in a movie is refreshing.
You went through so many points. I know I have a response to one of them, but now I forgot.
Okay, let's just I want to get into the powers. They are milquetoast powers that are really boring, but in this film, they also the film's bad, and then she has time-based powers, so you have to rewatch the bad scenes twice. Where she'll watch something bad and poorly edited and poorly written, and then it'll cut back to her being like, and she'll just go through the bad, poorly edited, poorly acted scene again. So you're just rewatching a bad movie at every single scene.
Okay, I will say I feel like a lot of it was supposed to be intentionally disorienting just because she's still trying to figure out her powers for a large portion of the movie. So it makes sense that it feels unsettling when watching it. I think that's why it's a lot of it.
You
is
think it was
cut
a
together that
choice
way.
to make it Queasy Cam Cloverfield ass style camera footage?
Yeah, no, because I also do think it. I also do think it's the problem is it feels like they made this like a B movie, but the budget was too high. Like if this had if they took the same script and did it with Sharknado's budget, we'd all be enjoying the movie. No one would
I enjoyed the movie. That's for between February and May of this year. Whenever I would go on a first date, I would make them watch Madam Web with me.
Are you still in a relationship?
No.
Yeah, that's why he's seen it five times.
Just like I think it's really great. We have a female superhero who doesn't have to rely on her natural charisma, charm, or beauty. Like there was no seduction in the movie from Madam Web, and I think that is a very brave, powerful thing to do.
I mean, the thing is also
I took my mom, who survived cancer, to see this movie, and she had a good time. She had a good time.
Do you have a vendetta just against people in your life?
No, I gave her a big hug when Madam Web is. Oh yeah, my favorite scene is when Madam Web uses the power of the web to go back in time to when her mom was like, "I'm going to the Amazon," and hugs her. I hugged my mom. I almost had a tear in my eye in that scene.
I've got to ask, when you brought people to see that, are you watching the film or are you just watching them? Like, I'm just imagining Otter just like sitting beside them, just like making sure they're reacting how he wants them to.
Oh yeah, no, it's like when you show your friend the movie you think is hilarious, and then they aren't laughing at the right parts. It's like, what's wrong with you? All right, but back to her powers. Like I feel like the way the movie is set up, they're essentially setting her up to be something like Professor X of the X-Men. Like Professor X rarely goes out and fights in battle. He just leads the X-Men, and his powers help tremendously with that.
Professor, except she doesn't have any charisma.
I love at the end of a movie, like. Usually in these types of origin stories, you get a real sense that the hero is going to use her powers for good. And she just uses it to sort of one-up people in a really passive-aggressive way. Like, I knew you were going to eat that egg roll. And maybe the best indication of this is when Ben mentions that he's just going to be a fun uncle and he isn't going to have any responsibility. And she just goes, "That's what you think," implying that she knows that Ben and his wife... that Ben's sister and her husband are gonna die in a horrible. I think it's either a car accident or a murder, right?
Yeah,
and that he's gonna be forced to raise Spider-Man on his own, and that he too is probably going to be killed.
Yeah,
she does nothing to prevent that. I think it's good. I think it's good to have morally gray female heroes. We don't have enough of those.
But then she brings more people into her web. That's like now she has a spider boy.
I also think it's amusing how she arguably caused more deaths because she called those EMTs on the helicopter to save them at the factory, and then they are killed horribly. She's like, is it worth him getting away if we sacrifice the lives of 3 teenage girls, and then goes on to sacrifice like probably dozens of other people's lives?
Yeah, it's like in Avengers Infinity War when Captain America is like, no, we're not gonna sacrifice a Vision just to stop Thanos. So he sacrifices all the Wakandans instead.
Okay, I haven't seen Dakota Johnson in many stuff, but does she kind of always just do that like 50 Shades of Grey porn quality acting? Where it just feels like she's like not trying.
It felt like she was completely stoned throughout the entire movie, but I think that was a character choice.
Okay,
she's numbing herself to the pain of her childhood.
Okay, I will say, like, I haven't seen a whole lot of Dakota Johnson to say whether or not she's a bad actress, but I think how Nicolas Cage has come out and said, I did some movies just for the check, but I put my all into every one of them. Everyone's like, yeah, I'm not gonna argue with that. We can't say that about Dakota Johnson.
Yeah,
I think when she is not into a movie, she cannot fake it.
She's just so authentic.
Yeah.
I think that's really brave. Yeah. We need more of that in Hollywood.
Yeah, again, that's why I say like if we had Aubrey Plaza playing Madam Web instead, it'd be a much better movie because Aubrey Plaza, maybe she hates the script just as much, but she'd have a lot more fun with it.
I think she'd do a good job. I don't know. I feel like she would have gotten a different script. Maybe that's a little unfair to Dakota Johnson. I just have too much faith in Aubrey Plaza. But like, I think Aubrey Plaza would have made a great Madam Web. Because I feel like a big part of the issue is just Dakota Johnson kind of not trying at all. Like, could you imagine walking on set and the lead is just like, yeah, I'm not going to give it much effort today. But
yeah, okay. Okay, I will also say so. Like this is essentially like another take on a superhero origin story.
A superhero origin story that does not exist in the comics.
Yeah, I mean, they change stuff from comics and movies all the time. I'm not pressed about that personally, but but basically, in pretty much any origin story movie, they have like the training sequence where they're just learning about their powers and having fun with it. This kind of plays on that by just like having that be most of the movie. Like for most of the movie, she's trying to figure out her powers all while trying to save people. Like the big joke is that she is also not in the know and she has to convince other people to follow her.
Wasn't the training sequence when she got pushed out of her body?
Yeah, so the thing is, she doesn't have a traditional training sequence. She sort of just kind of assumes control of her powers after she finds out her mom was doing it for her. Which I think is a beautiful metaphor for everybody's relationship with their moms. Which my relationship with my mom, for one, was definitely strengthened by this movie.
Okay, I will say I think the part where she like goes into the web, understands her mom, and hugs was very touching. I think if people liked the rest of the movie, it would be talked about a lot more.
I thought it was a well done scene. I thought the actresses were. I think one of my favorite parts is when Sydney Sweeney sees a picture of Madam Web's mom and just goes, "Oh my God, your mom is so pretty." Like, why was that? Why was that line in the film?
That was like towards the end, that end scene, right?
I also love, like, you know, there's the device, right? Chekhov's gun, and the different ways Chekhov's gun was implemented in the film. Like, she had a vision of the Pepsi sign, but it wasn't the S that crushed him; it was the P, right? Or maybe I'm reversing it.
No, I think it was a P. I think I made a comment. It's just like, wow, he got killed by the biggest P you've ever seen.
Yeah. And then the other thing is that we have that moment, right, where Sydney Sweeney's like, "Oh, I can protect myself. I know Taekwondo," and then they proceed to never address that or use it for the rest of the film. I thought that was refreshing.
Yeah, honestly, I think a lot of the scenes between the three teenage girls, it's like when they're left alone, I thought that those were good. Like the characters are pretty shallow, but I think all the actresses have good chemistry and work well together to make some of those individual scenes work.
Well, I think the issue of like, oh, they keep introducing stuff. They kept introducing stuff essentially to lie to the audience. It was kind of like a true bait and switch where like you went and you saw commercials for it and you see the three girls dressed in spider suits and you're like, sweet, Madam Web, got Web in the name. It's going to be the mom of Spider Girls. It's going to be great. And then you're like, oh shit, she knows Taekwondo. That's cool as shit. She's about to be a great superhero. And then by the end of the film, you're like, actually, you get a white lady who can, I guess, project her body into multiple places. And then that's just the end of it.
I'll say the biggest disappointment I had from trailer to movie was, of course, the lack of the iconic line. He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died. That was a grievous blow to my enjoyment of the film.
Wait, did she not say that?
No,
they cut it. That line was in the trailer for exposition. Everybody memed out of it, and then they cut it from the film. That really, really hurt. I felt extremely misled by that, and that is the one thing that I did not enjoy about the movie.
I'm just thinking, like, I feel like I could write a better script.
I actually shared an Instagram story where I wrote, he was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died, and I had multiple people contact me because they thought my mom had died. I was like, in what universe would I post a brunch selfie with that quote and to actually announce that my mom? I guess I can see how people would assume.
Yeah. It's like, damn, I didn't realize your mom was that into arachnids.
Yeah. She couldn't cure her cancer, so she went to the Amazon to find a cure. I also love that I was extremely concerned that the spider people would be some sort of weird racist caricature, but they didn't even have enough personality to be a caricature. They were just kind of there.
Yeah, she just kind of shows up and he's like, I've been waiting for you. And then he like punches her in the chest. Yeah. She just leaves.
I do wish we had a scene where it shows the spider people flying her to New York, leaving her in a hospital, and then flying back.
How about like a return journey? How did that timeline work? She was gone for a week. She manages.
She didn't know how long she was going to be gone, right? So she had to buy a flight back.
Yeah. So she managed to go from New York to upper state New York to back to New York to upper state New York, back to New York, to the airport, to Peru, off the plane, onto a bus, through the rainforest, to an uncontacted tribe where no one knew where they were. Find the uncontacted tribe, do a vision quest, reconcile with the ghost of her mom, see that in like a couple days, they're going to get attacked, manage to do that exact return journey home, all within like, what, 6 days?
It's because she has the power to see the future and she read the script.
I'm just like, I don't know. That's a little too much. The whole time I'm just like, this is 3 weeks.
Yeah, I know,
minimum.
I know. It's like the spider tribe. It's like they purely just gave out the information she needed. They didn't like make dinner for her or anything. They didn't give her a sleeping quarters. They were just like, all right, here's a cave, and now stand here while I shove my arm.
Also, presumably, right, that we see there are like hundreds, if not thousands, of those spiders. So they could have also just given her super strength at any point, and they chose not to.
I really thought she was going to go back and collect the spiders and then give the spiders to the girls who were then going to
that would have made a lot of sense.
That would have been so much fun.
Yeah, no, I do think they should have gotten powers because like the movie does have a bit of a theme of like the future is uncertain. You gotta be careful with it. So I do think like Ezekiel trying to kill the girls actually gives them the powers that allow them to kill him would like tie things together.
I'm gonna be dying of probably my lifestyle choices in a hospital, and I'm gonna hear my spider. I love how they messed up his ADR, right?
Oh my god!
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Okay.
It shows that you can't trust him.
Did they just not have enough money for reshoots?
Yeah. Okay. Here's my thought process on what happened with that ADR.
What are your thought process?
They had initial audience test screening, and no matter what you think of the movie, I guarantee you that test screening was much worse. So they were like, all right, we need to really change some stuff.
So rather than reshooting, they just changed the dialogue.
Yeah, for whatever reason, they couldn't reshoot. So they're like, all right, let's just bring him in for ADR. And it was...
This is my theory. I think that about like 1 minute into shooting, they're like, oh, this is a stinker. We're going to have to go back and reshoot this. And they're like, all right, well, this villain, we can just like have him move his mouth and make noises for the entirety of the show.
You think he's just going...
And when we decide what we want, we can go back and just edit it in. It'll look great.
And then it didn't go according to...
It's so funny because it's like half the time he's in a scene, they just deliberately cut so you don't see his face while he's talking.
I also want to shout out Zoja Mamet for playing the secondary antagonist who does nothing but get yelled at in front of a computer screen. Shout out to my ladies in STEM.
She's just an employee who's not getting paid enough. And now that he's dead, she's out of a job.
I'm so curious. Like, so right, she's in constant contact with him, right? He dies, and she's just alone in front of a stolen NSA technology. What's her next move?
She can't even put that job on her resume.
I also love that he kept saying, like, I can't let them kill me. I will lose everything that I worked for. And it's like, what did you work for? What do you have?
He's just
He had a really nice apartment. I guess he could invest in stuff because the spider told him.
Do you think? Yeah, I was like, because she also has a nice apartment, different, very nice apartment at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Do you think she just used her like to win the lottery and
stuff? Do you think
stuff?
they just used his old apartment as her? No, it's not the same apartment, right? But do they have a spider? Yeah.
It's like weird lair type apartment right? With that.
Yeah.
They have like a big round stained glass window.
Yeah, it's like the window from Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
It did look like that.
So I think she just keeps winning lotteries. Like she
just knows
like,
which ones to scratch.
Yeah, it's like in Back to the Future 2, how Biff just won from sports betting.
Like every day she watches a sports game, so that way she can see it in the future. So she watches it both the day before and the day of.
Yeah, it's like someone asks, like, "Oh, how'd you make your money?" She's like, "I just kill March Madness every single year."
All right, you want to get into 3 things?
All right, so now it's time for our concessions. This is where I give 3 things I didn't like about the movie, and Chris gives 3 things she enjoyed. My first concession is Dakota Johnson's acting. Like, as mentioned before, she cannot phone in a performance. It's just so obvious. She did not feel like she cared.
I think confused disinterest is an admirable quality in a lead.
It's kind of like if you tell a kid he can't leave the theater or the table until he finishes his broccoli. So he's just like shoving him in his mouth, and like fucking chewing him up. But like, you're like, you hate this. I'm always a fan of found family, older lesbian aunt dynamics. A woman who takes on a parentalish role without any ability to do it. Just utter incompetence at trying to help teenagers. It's always fun. I feel like that's a fun dynamic that they played out really well.
Yeah, her only parental qualification is she didn't let them die.
Yeah, and she abandoned them a lot.
Multiple times.
She left them in the woods for hours and then was mad they went to civilization.
It's like she was just one line away from like trying to baby talk them and them having to be like, we are 17.
She taught him CPR.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot to get into that.
Yeah,
That was a dumb scene, too.
Yeah, she taught him CPR terribly. Also, if you've ever like taken a CPR course, like they didn't even do the obvious joke that like two popular songs that have the right tempo for CPR are "Staying Alive" and "Another One Bites the Dust." But the joke is those are 2 songs that you shouldn't sing while giving someone CPR. She's totally the person that would sing that out loud while giving someone CPR.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Is it my turn or yours?
It's yours.
Oh, all right. My next concession. The villain, both the ADR is bad. Also, he's just very generic. Like we mentioned, they could have gotten into how he made so much money.
Or any motives. Like he other than the fact he didn't want to die, he has really no motivation for everything.
Also, when you have that much money, right? Couldn't you have just hired like a bunch of people to go after him at any point?
Like, did he make his money using the spider, or did he just have the spider bite him?
Yeah, cause like I feel like that would make more sense if he like developed it into medicine and sold it. And then like tie in, it was just like, oh, like all his crimes were going to come out or something. Like I think that would have made a lot more sense and just flesh them out a bit.
The 3 teenagers were all right. They had like they had a decent dynamic. Their roles didn't have much depth, but they're fine. Like
they were like, we're gonna make the black girl unapologetically mean and rich.
Well, yeah, they're like, okay, you're rich. You're nerdy and you're a goody 2-shoes. And then they're just like, all right. And then I don't know. They're just like very basic, but the actresses played them out with what little they had pretty well.
Yeah. Like the way I said like this could have been a good B movie if Dakota Johnson committed to the bit. I feel like they did commit to the bit. Like it seems like they kind of improv their characters and worked hard at it. All right. My last concession: the girl should have gotten powers. Like That seemed like the very logical thing to happen in this movie, and it's weird it didn't.
Was it like a licensing thing?
No, because so the three girls, like all their characters are some version of Spider-Girl or Spider-Woman. So it makes sense for them to just become that in some variation.
I also thought it was really fun how unclear their powers were in the Vision, right? Like, they all had like some kind of like webbing or like spider.
But they have their own
thing.
take on it.
Yeah.
Like they all have their own like style. I think one had like telekinetic spider powers.
Yeah, like golden spider webs, right?
Yeah.
One of them had
Yeah.
giant spider legs, and the other one just kind of shot webs. I think.
You saved my stepmother and then you were super awkward about it is an A+ teenager line. Sydney Sweeney said that. She was just like, yeah, oh, I know you saved my mother. And then you were like super awkward about it. And she was like, that sounds like me. Great line. Like, great. As much as I've shit on the writing, I like that line.
I also love how we never see her Asian stepmother.
Oh yeah, you don't really see any of their parents.
Yeah, no.
That's the one thing I could have used a little more Asian representation in a movie.
Yeah, no, because it wasn't her thing. Like her parents went on vacation, like right after her stepmom went straight out the hospital to like Europe or something.
Yeah. Because the Maddie's parents were like in China, right? Her Anya's parents were deported. And it's like Sydney Sweeney's like, my parents just don't like me very much.
Yeah, it's like my parents don't care. Like I could smoke crack and they'd be fine.
All right, you wanna?
All right, yep.
Yeah.
Now it's time for our closing arguments. Does Madame Web have its flaws? Yes, but that's also its charm. It may seem like a string of baffling decisions, but that's the point. Our heroine goes on a wild ride, and so do we. I know we're talking about it because of how weird and strange it is, but if it was a generic superhero flick, no one would be talking about it at all.
Madam Web is a mess. If there was ever a film that should be shelved for tax purposes, it was this one. Everything is bad. They didn't do a single thing right. It's a poorly shot film filmed with characters you don't care about, making inexplicable actions that leave you saying, really? The filmmakers should have taken Cassie's advice when she said, don't do dumb things, and thrown this whole script in the garbage as soon as it was written.
I'm going to say that for anybody watching the podcast, I am currently taking applications for white guys who want to watch Madame Web with me. I'm still looking for love, and I stand by this movie. You might argue that I've only ever inflicted it on other people for my own statistic pleasure, but I will say that I'm still using this movie to find love, and I have a lot of love in my heart for it.
We should turn that into a dating game show. Just play Madame Web, narrow down the dates to whoever's saying at the end.
And in the immortal words of Madame Web, the best part about the future is that it hasn't happened yet.
All right. Well, Otter, thank you for coming on. Where can people find you?
At Otter Lee, OTTERLEEMOY on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, etc.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for coming on the podcast. This has been another episode of Film versus Movie. I'm Belton DeLaine-Facey.
My name's Chris Shurr.
And we'll see you all next time.